I move to take note of the Minister's statement. I give the Minister an A for delivery but a resubmit on its content, because there are several material errors in the statement that the Minister just gave just then, and I'll spell them out in detail. But before I do that, there are two things that I need to say right off the bat. The first is that it didn't even take the Minister, certainly the Minister in the other place, 8 sentences to repeat the falsehood that even the ABC, no apologists for the coalition, have repudiated, that the previous coalition government cut public funding from public schools. And again, that is an ABC fact check saying that this claim about cuts to public education that we're hearing quoted both here in the Senate and in the other place is completely misleading, quote unquote misleading, from the ABC fact check. The original claim about the $30 billion cut was made by Kate Ellis, and let me quote from the ABC fact check in 2014. Miss Ellis, beg your pardon, is spouting rubbery figures, quote unquote, from the ABC. Now they're no friends of the coalition, the ABC. So they don't have a bias towards saying things that might benefit the coalition. They of course will take any opportunity they can, we find, to run us down. But in this case, the ABC defended the coalition's record, and that is a remarkable thing. The Minister should not repeat these figures, should not be reporting figures that the ABC fact check have found to be rubbery. Labor revised its claim in 2016 and said the cut was only $22 billion. They changed their figures. The ABC fact check also repudiated this figure. Let me read directly from the ABC fact check. It said, based on Labor's stated commitments and the government's own document, Labor intends to spend more on schools in the future than the current government, but this does not change the fact that school funding continues to rise year on year. You heard that? Schools funding continues to rise year on year. Again, refuting this claim that we're hearing peddled here in this place and in the other place, which is proven to be untrue. Let me quote ABC fact check again from 2016, reflecting on the coalition's period in office. They said school funding continues to rise year on year. Now, Australians expect better from the Minister for Education and, indeed, the Minister representing the Minister for Education here in this place, Senator Walsh. They should not be repeating these falsehoods. It's not right. It's improper. They should not be repeating these falsehoods. The second thing that I want to say about the Minister's statement, and it only takes just 2 sentences into their talking about it that you realise that they've got some problems with what they're saying when they're talking about thriving kids. This speech could have been an opportunity for the Minister to alleviate the concerns across the education sector that people are going to be moved from the NDIS to the education sector without adequate support, resources or funding. Now, every principal that we speak to on this side, and certainly the Shadow Minister for Education, Mr Lisa, as he gets around the country and speaks to school principals, they are worried about this. They're worried about what this means for their students, their teachers and their school. And the Minister did not take this opportunity to address those concerns, to address those worries. We didn't hear it in the other place when the statement was given, and we haven't heard it here in this place. There was an opportunity to correct it, maybe, when the statement was spoken to and spoken of here in this place. Now let me turn to some of the details in the Minister's statement. The Minister spoke about reading, about school attendance and school completion. When children are improving in reading, writing and arithmetic, we want to celebrate this. We truly do as a coalition. But it helps no one to cherry-pick data or present a false picture. So let me address the Minister's claims in turn. Firstly, reading. The first materially incorrect claim is this: the average 8-year-old is a year ahead in reading compared to 20 years ago. Well, the Minister said this: NAPLAN data tells us that the average 8-year-old is reading about a year ahead of where 8-year-olds were when NAPLAN testing started 20 years ago. Well, NAPLAN data has been published since 2008. And I've looked at those figures, we've had a look at these figures, and we know that the minister must have looked at them as well, but the figures that I'm about to cite are drawn from the NAPLAN National Report for 2008, the NAPLAN National Report for 2022 and the NAPLAN data tables from 2023, which have been published online. You can check them for yourself, you can fact check it. They are not consistent with the statement the minister has made into the House or the statement that's been made here in the Senate by the representing minister. The results from the first NAPLAN test for 8-year-olds, that is Year 3 students, are published in the National Report for 2008. The report gave a nationwide mean scale score for reading of 400.5. The National Report for 2022 gave the score as 437.8, but the average NAPLAN score in Year 3 reading in 2025 was 402.2 points. In other words, the biggest single drop in 8-year-old reading scores came between 2022 and 2025 after the current Labor government came into power. Now, on the face of it, it's a 35-point drop from the historic highs achieved under the coalition. Labor has presided over the biggest single drop in NAPLAN scores in reading for 8-year-olds since testing started 18 years ago, and it directly contradicts the minister's point. I mean, the other point I could make here is that NAPLAN hasn't been around for the 20 years that he talked about. It's been around for 18, but that's, I guess, a minor point to make. Now, in fairness to the minister, I will say this. Unfortunately, since Labor came to office, the reporting of NAPLAN results has changed. So the results from 2023 onwards are not directly comparable to pre-2022. But it's not right for the minister in the House or the representing minister here to make that comparison in the way that they have. It's not right to be able to do that. Maybe there's an adjustment that he's chosen to make, but we can say this: if you compare apples with apples and look only at publicly available post-2022 data for reading for 8-year-olds, what we see is this. In 2023, the average NAPLAN score was 404.6. In 2024, it falls to 404.1. In 2025, it falls again to 402.2. Again, this is a year-on-year decline under this Labor government based on publicly available data. So it's not consistent with the impression that we've been given by the ministerial statement here in this place. Now, I could go on. There's much more, and I know my colleague in the other place, Mr Leeser, has given much more comprehensive response to the ministerial statement, and I refer you to that because he makes some strong statements about the inaccuracies of what the minister is saying and their reflection on this report, and the government needs to come clean because, let's face it, we all know that the education of our children, our most precious resource, it's not the minerals in the ground, it's not the value of the workforce and the economy, it's our children. Nothing is more important for this nation than the education and the welfare of our children. And so we've got to be honest about things if we're going to make advancements. If we're going to progress, you need to be honest about where we're at. And simply making statements that just put the blame to previous governments and doesn't actually address the significance of the issue that is before us right now. And we know that we're seeing declining standards of education and attainment across the country, across multiple levels. We've got to fix our early childhood system so that we're preparing kids for when they're actually getting into school. We've got to fix our primary school system. There's so much that needs to be resolved, and simply coming in here and making false statements about the status of where we're at is not aiding and is not assisting with addressing the real substantial issues that we face as a country. Thank you.
Authorised by Matt O'Sullivan, Liberal Party, Perth.